Hello, I'm Sherry Sturman, Director of Crayola Education. We're excited that Hallmark is collaborating with Crayola on this creative spa for teachers. This special program is for everyone who educates children, whether at school or at home, to help rejuvenate, refresh, and rekindle your creative spirit. While you enjoy today's creative ideas, you'll also receive great tips on how to help children create colorful, positive messages out of paper that they can gift to themselves and to others. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Lynn Giunta, a master artist at Hallmark Cards, who's going to show us how to create cut paper lettering collages that spread positivity. We're delighted to have you join us, Lynn.
Hi, I'm so glad to be with you today.
Lynn, start by telling us about your background and what inspired you to make lettering your special art form, whether you're hand lettering or creating paper cut letter collages.
Sure. I had the great good fortune to grow up in a family that was very crafty. My dad was an engineer. My mom was the Brownie and Girl Scout leader. And so I learned at a very early age the joy and happiness of making things with my hands. And so really my whole career, my whole art career, I'm always trying to get back to that happy place, sitting around the kitchen table, working on a project with my family. And specifically how I got into lettering. And it was no surprise because of a teacher that I had. I went off to college, not sure what I wanted to do. And I kind of stumbled into a calligraphy class. And that teacher really lit a light bulb over my head. I discovered the world of graphic design. And more importantly, I discovered the power of making designs that had words in them. And that has just kept me captivated my whole life. The endless possibilities of creating messages out of the 26 letters of the alphabet. It's always fun for me.
I love the way you describe that it brings you back to your happy place and the memories from your childhood. Lynn, it's great to hear how your childhood influenced the art that you're making today. Keeping our inner child alive is an important connection between Crayola and our parent company, Hallmark. Please tell us about your work at Hallmark and how you get to be creatively alive through the fun projects that you work on.
Sure. Well, today is an awesome example of some of the great projects I've gotten to work on. I mean, just getting to join with you today, helping spread creativity to parents and teachers and kids is just wonderful. And at Hallmark, our mission is to create more caring and connected lives. So that right there, it's in my wheelhouse of positivity. When I started doing all the lettering artwork that I love to do, I realized I just really love positive words. I love putting out more positivity and kindness into the world. A lot of the projects, most of the projects that I work on at Hallmark are just in that same field. I brought a couple cards. I get to do things that say like awesome you, or just this was a thank you that I did for teachers at one point, or just an encouragement card. It's going to be okay. I also create a lot of positive word images just outside of Hallmark as well. And I brought one today that Sherry, you asked about, was the Happy Face Club. And we're going to talk about smiles more later on when we create our project together. But I think what inspired me to do this was just thinking about how much I love to see somebody smile, and either somebody when their face lights up with a smile, or somebody you've never met before when their face lights up with a smile. It always makes me happy.
Great examples of spreading positivity. Lynn, one of the best gifts that we can give to ourselves is a reminder to be positive and to focus on the joy in our lives. Please tell our viewers about the connection between wellness and positivity, especially when people are feeling the added stress that can come with the holiday season.
Creating is really my form of self-care. One of my core values is that the more you focus on the good in life, the more you see in life. If you look through things through the lens of what brings me joy, what am I grateful for, that just starts a running film in my head of all the things that I love. And that is what I bring to my work then. So first off, I've got these positive words running through my head, and then I sit down at my table and I create, because that is my happy place. And I'm always feeling good if I'm making with my hands. So it's two things. One is that I'm looking through the lens of what are the happy things in my life, and what are the messages that I want to send out into the world. But then also just that I have this privilege of being able to sit down and create with my hands. And when I'm making, I just don't really usually have room in my head for the things that are worrying me or the things that are stressful. Those kind of fall away because I'm just feeling so good about what I'm doing.
I love this, how you intentionally spread happiness and how much of your art focuses on happiness in the words and the images, from your examples of more happy moments to the Happy Face Club. And you even have a poster, do more of what makes you happy. Please tell us how you come up with the mantras and the affirmative phrases that you use in the cut paper letter and collages, and how our viewers can use words so that they too are intentionally spreading happiness.
I always encourage people to think about their own lives and what are the words that are meaningful to them. For me personally, I'm always trying to think of the most powerful statement to make in the fewest amount of words, because a lot of words are harder to cut out. So I'm trying to distill it down to the really basic message. I am a shameless eavesdropper. I listen in no matter where I am. I listen to what people are saying when I'm out getting coffee. I listen when I'm watching movies or when I'm reading books, or sometimes it's the words or things that I want to say to somebody in my life. My work is really very intensely personal. A lot of it are things that I'm thinking that I want to say to somebody, or I'm just thinking it's a message I want to send to somebody, but I'm not going to call them up and tell them something that maybe seems a little bit too in your face. So instead I make a collage out of it and I send it out into the world. And the really neat thing about that is that I'll have people contact me through Instagram usually and say, your message really helped me today, and it found me just when I needed it the most. So I love that. I love feeling connected to other people all across the world that I've never even met. It's just start some conversations that I really love. So I just encourage people to think about their own lives. They wouldn't pick the same messages that I'm doing because they're in their lives. Think about who they might want to say something to, or just, maybe their voice is different than my voice, but it's fun to come up with what that voice is. And then to be able to create word collages is a lot of fun.
Great advice to really dig into the personal and find your voice. I'm excited that Lynn is going to demonstrate 2 art activities that become positive message gifts you can give to yourself or others. The first is called Zen Patterns. Lynn, you describe pattern making as a relaxing exercise that disengages your mind from worry and helps you connect with your inner calm flow. Please show our viewers how to create patterns that are both peaceful and beautiful.
Okay, so first I wanted to just show you the project that we're going to be working on, which is more smiles. I had talked about that earlier. Wouldn't the world be a greater place if we all had more smiles? So this is the project I'm going to work towards getting finished today. But the way that I always start out is I like to pick my colors. And I just have to say that I was gifted with a great supply of Crayola products to do this project. Color's really powerful to me. I love looking through papers. That's what gets me kind of excited about doing a project. This is just an array that I thought, okay, I think this has got some great possibilities. So then once I have my colors, I'm going to work on doing patterns. And Sherry, I loved it that you named this Zen pattern making. I never really thought of it that way, but it absolutely is. Pattern making is just fun. It's kind of like the warm up to getting to the place of doing the project. I also have this great array of Crayola products to do the patterns with. I have a lot of other tools, but I kind of sorted through to pick out the tools that I wanted to use for this project. One of the ways that I do patterns is I stick kind of tone on tone, or I do light on dark or dark on light. What you keep in mind before we start doing this pattern making is this is not the end product. This is just having fun. This is just playing. So one thing is that you could spend probably, I don't know, 30 minutes just to an hour just doing patterns. I'm just going to do a couple here to kind of get you going. I love these big old markers. And to me, I see something like that. It's like, wow, what kind of big marks can I do? I could do some great big stripes. I can do it that way. Then another way would be just to do this. And you could spend so much time just doing stripes, just doing circles. Let's say circles, you could do big, you could do small, you could do close together, you could do far apart. So that was I just started out doing a little stripes. Thinking about circles makes me think about dots. I want to go ahead and do some dots. And like I said, I like to do light on dark and dark on light. Sometimes with a smaller tool, I'm going to just do these little tiny little marks. And as you're doing these, just go ahead and fill up a good amount of the paper, because you want to make sure that you have enough to cut out of when you get to that point. And this is where if you're sitting with somebody else, you can just sit and talk. You let your mind wander a little bit. You just have a good time. So, doing these dots, I did them kind of like this. You could also do stripes, you could do dashes. Just one tool can give you so many different variations. That makes me think about stars. What about stars? So you just keep going. And the one thing I want to say is that there is no such thing as an ugly bad pattern. But what you got to remember is that you're going to cut these out. So it's all about perspective. It's all about how you see things. Right now we're seeing this as one big piece of paper, but when I start cutting things out, I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to just cut a little piece out, right? So you're just going to see a little window on it. I have this nice pretty blue, and I think I'll just do, I love my Crayola Super Tips. That is one of my favorite tools. And you can do, you know, kind of on the side like I'm doing right now. Or you can do it where you do it just on the very tip. You get a little bit different. See, I mean, just how you change your tool, how you hold your tool can give you so many different looks. This is kind of a random scatter pattern. But then you can also do something that's more got a rhythm to it. So you can see that you could spend a lot of time doing this. And I will probably maybe only use a little bit of the patterns that I do on this project. I save my pattern papers. I have a large collection of papers, as you can well imagine, but you just never know when you might want to use a piece on a different project. That's just an example of how I would go about doing my patterns on my papers. I'm going to take these and set them aside and just kind of show you, these are the patterns that I ended up when I was playing earlier. These are the patterns that I'm going to want to use on this project. I have a nice crosshatch. I've got my stripes, more of my stars. So my papers are all ready to go, and I'm ready to go to my next stage of my project.
Thank you, Lynn. I love that, showing us how to make the patterns and that viewers can make positive messages with children. Now excited for the second art demo, Say It With Scissors. Lynn, your art shows that cut paper lettering can be a joyous way of saying and sharing so many different important messages. Please demonstrate how you use the pattern papers that you just created to cut out positive messages.
So now we get to the fun part. We've had spent some time doing our patterns. We've got those all sitting right here off to the side. And now we're going to jump right into our project. Usually when I'm doing my letters, I cut most of my letters out of a rectangle. So that's just kind of helps me out a little bit. So if this helps you, you can cut out a rectangle first. Now remember, let me see, our phrase was more smiles because we want to put more smiles out into the world. This is when it's good to have a lot of your paper. So in case you cut something out, it's not right, you can cut again. So I'm going to just start out my rectangle. Just kind of place it, kind of see, is that going to be a little bit, it might be a little bit too big, I'm going to trim it down, but I do a lot of trimming, a lot of cutting, recutting. I change things constantly. That's one of the joys of collage, is that it's not done until you glue it all down. So you have the option of changing things around quite a bit. Now, I usually, when I do M's, I like it straight across the top like that, but you can always just take that top part off. My next is going to be a big old circle from the word more. And I cut it out a little roughly first. And remember, I'm doing my composition the whole time I'm cutting, so I'm trying to figure out how big can I get this to be, but still have it fit on the page. I like things big. So, I got that kind of rough. I'm going to go in and trim it out just a little bit. I don't use patterns on every single one of my letters. I had somebody describe it one time as, I don't probably want to wear a pattern top and a pattern pants and pattern socks and a pattern hat. And maybe you do. If you love a lot of pattern, then you go for it and do pattern on all your letters. I will probably pull back and not have pattern on every single one of my letters, or maybe I will. I don't know. It depends. So, and the thing that, I just got to keep emphasizing, I know I already said this one time, is that this is not meant to be perfect. You want your letters to have life to them. Now I can already see I've made my M and O kind of big. I am going to squinch it up a little bit on my R-E, going to make them a little bit skinnier, just so I can make everything fit. But I don't usually draw my letters out. And I don't like using X-Actos. I like using scissors because I just love the imperfections and the energy and the life that brings to my letters. The other thing that I wanted to make sure and talk about is scraps. When you're cutting letters out, you start getting these kind of interesting scraps. And so always keep your eyes peeled for something that falls away that you might use, if either in this collage or maybe in a future collage. Sometimes you're cutting something out and what you're leaving behind is actually a lot more interesting. Like this, actually, I love that. I love this piece. I don't know if I'll use it on this one, but always keep your eyes peeled for the happy accidents. Don't be so focused on what you thought it was going to look like that you forget to notice the really exciting thing that's happening right in front of your eyes. Some of these papers that I'm using are part of Crayola's Colors of the World, which is just an amazing line of really beautiful, it's all the different ranges of skin tones. And I just think they're gorgeous colors. So I've been using them in my collages here the past couple weeks. I know this paper is one of them. I like them because they have the same color on the front and the back. So sometimes I cut something and I don't like it and I use the back side. So you see how each of them I'm kind of just laying that rectangle out to kind of get a feel for the space. I'm working out my composition as I'm doing that. So I think this is the last one I'm going to go ahead and cut for you. I have some of my other letters I've already got cut over here just to kind of speed this up a little bit. I got to cut out another eye though. I think it's fun to come up with what your phrase is going to be and then think on it for a little while. Sometimes I don't like to just sit down at my art table and not have any idea of what I'm going to do. I like to already be thinking about it. I call it putting my ideas on my back burner. So sometimes when I sit down at my studio table, I've been thinking about my phrase, or maybe it's a story I'm trying to tell. I've been thinking about it for a couple days. And so then by the time I sit down, I'm so excited to work on it. I can't wait to get going. So these are my other pieces. Kind of a fun way to add in extra color is I did this rectangle as a color and then put my little S on top of that. So kind of got my layout going. I think it's working pretty well. I always like to have a little bit of a sign of life. I feel like that kind of helps a little bit. And so for this one, I thought I would do a flower at the bottom. Just cut that out. So instead of being out of a rectangle, I cut that out of a circle. And this is going to be an example of making sure you look at what the scraps are that get left behind. So here was my flower that I cut out, which I think is pretty darling, and I'll probably use it. But look at this piece that was left behind. So that's the negative shape. That's actually pretty good. I might actually keep that now that I think about it. So if you're not paying attention, you kind of throw that scrap away and you don't even see it. I love to always keep my eyes peeled for those. I'm going to save that for another project. I'm going to put that down. So that looks pretty good. I feel like I need color up here. That's called a counter, that little, those places inside of letters. I could put something inside of that O, but I kind of like it just nice and big like that. So now I'm at the point where I've finished it. If you're working along or you're doing this at another point, what I recommend doing, what I like to do is I get out my camera and I take a picture of it when I have worked out my layout, how I like it. Again, I'm not working for perfection, it doesn't matter. But sometimes it happens where a dog or a kid will come running through the room, or somebody will open a window, turn on a fan, and whoosh, all your letters will blow off to the side. And if you have that little capture on your camera, that helps you remember how you had them glued down. So now I'm at the point where I'm going to glue. So I was just going to give you a quick little gluing tutorial. I just use glue sticks. Just get some scrap paper. I get out my glue stick, just liberally apply glue across the whole thing. Just kind of work across my whole board, gluing each of my pieces down really well. And then since I am an artist, what I usually do, because people will ask me what I do for my next step, is I go ahead and scan them in and make them into a file, and then I make prints out of mine. These could also, as Shari was saying, just make a really great gift. You could make a message for somebody. You could make a piece of art for somebody to put on their wall. Go. And if you have a little piece, let's say you have a little piece that's sticking up over here that's not glued down very well, take my glue stick and I put a little bit of extra glue on that little scrap, and I just slide it underneath my piece that's not cooperating. Through the magic of, we're already done. Let's put this one as our finished one. And here you go. Here's your finished piece. And like we talked about earlier, I would love to see, if you do a piece, what words you choose. I'd love to see what your colors were, what your patterns were. So share it with me on Instagram and help me put out more positive words into the world. Thanks, everybody.
That was awesome, Lynn. And that's exactly the kind of positive message that parents and teachers are going to want to do with students We're sharing the good vibes and the positivity with ourselves and with the children in our lives. While our viewers are finishing up their Zen patterns or Say It With Scissors art, I'd like to remind everyone that it's easy to stay updated on future Create a Spa for Teachers sessions and many of the other free Crayola colorful learning programs by signing up to receive the Crayola Education monthly e-newsletters. Just check Education as you go through the form, and you'll have the free learning ideas and self-care tips delivered right to your inbox. Lynn, you've shared so many great ideas for creating positive affirmation gifts. How can our viewers continue to learn from you and follow you online?
Well, I would love it if they share what they make, or if they're teaching their kids and their kids do a project. I would love to see it. I'm on Instagram. It's Lynn, LYNN_Giunta, GIUNTA. That's the best way to reach out and just show me what you're making. I'd love to see it.
Lynn, what last bits of advice or closing tips do you have for our viewers who are looking to create positive messages as gifts for themselves or to give to others to spread happiness?
Well, I think my top advice would be just have fun. I mean, if you are having fun while you are making something, it is going to show up in the end product. The thing I love about collage is it's not perfect. It is not meant to be perfect. So if you have worries about that, set them aside and just remember who you are as a kid, the kid inside, and just play and have fun. And it will show up in the end.
Absolutely. What we're feeling does show up in our art. Absolutely. We want to thank Lynn Giunta for inspiring us today. We want to thank our Hallmark colleagues for sharing Lynn's incredible artwork with the world. And a special thanks to everyone who participated in this session. Gift yourself peaceful feelings of positivity and share the joy as you head into the holiday season.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.